Hello, this is Benny from Eternity. So I'm deeply honored to be able to share with you some of the insights about China market and definitely the best practice of online advertising in China. So before I start the sharing, so let me just talk about my company and myself. So Eternities, we are the cross-border marketing specialist, helping those overseas brands to get into the China market with ease and will be able to get the succeed they wanted in China market through different funnels, including pay advertising, KOLs, and something extra. So definitely we provide a consultation at sometimes. So for myself, as the head of business development in Europe for Eternitics, I've been in this industry for around 7 years. So I've been through the different campaigns from different great brands. Definitely, most of them are not coming from mainland China. They're from somewhere to get into the China market. So I've been definitely, I am having the great privilege to be with them to help them solve those questions, troubles, and challenges during the last 7 years. So I hope that my experience and insight could help you to get the similar kind of success in the China market. So that would be a few steps that I would like to share with you today. So what would be the most holistic plan to get the success you want in China? First thing first is definitely choosing the right channels for you to convey your messages with the Chinese consumers, clients or individuals. So starting with the social media is everyone's business right now to use the social media. So it's the same in the China market. So what would be the greatest differences? So around the world, most of us are being fussed by Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, now called X, Threads in some regions, Facebook still being prominent. But in China, these media platforms are almost non-existent, although you will see some of the Chinese users, they've been quite active on particular platforms, but that would be exceptional case for the key target customers living in mainland China. These are the names we have to bear in mind. So the first one will be Xiaohongshu, known for the lifestyle, known for the tips for travel, and is now having 247 millions of monthly active users by January this year. So it's a female-oriented platforms. Just look at the gender distribution, and also is targeted on those younger generations. So if your brands are more related to it, do allocate more budget on this platform so it's applicable to all social media. So the second name is WeChat. It's not just available in mainland China. You could use this in the overseas and it's on the news sometimes. And right now it has 1.084 billion active users, monthly active users in China. It covers all age groups and being used almost everyone in China. So no matter if you would like to drop a message to your friends or book a restaurant, pay to a merchant, or maybe just would like to purchase a ticket for a movie night out, you will need WeChat. For Douyin, the third one, it's a short video platforms. When you look at the icon, it will record you another app called TikTok. So the content's over there, you might say quite similar, but not exactly. So in China, they do have their own Douyin challenge. It's just like the TikTok challenge there, but it's more about a much more omnipotent society community online. So you will see the OOTD on Douyin as well. You will see the recipe, how teaching you how to cook, and also the travel vlog. You will find it on Douyin. So it's also covering all age group there. It's just very much similar with WeChat. So, but don't get it wrong. So WeChat would be having a greater user base, but Douyin right now doing not bad. They have 861 millions of active users monthly. And the fourth one we have to pay attention to will be Weibo, the microblogging app or website right now, but mostly using on mobile devices. So there will be news and floats and sharings and photos on Weibo. But again, the importance is declining, something we have to be absolutely clear to everyone. The importance, the influence of Weibo is now declining, but it's still having 490 millions of monthly active users, so we can't overlook it. So for social media, again, we have to choose the right one. So if you found it right, we should stay conservative. We could think of Weibo and WeChat that would be able to help you to covering the majority of Chinese customers. But if your brands are in particular industry like fashion, like education, particularly university, or maybe it would be something to do with travel, that we would recommend you to think of Xiaohongshu and Douyin. Particularly, you would like to identify or targeting a particular generations. Do you think of the other two apps available there? So apart from the social media apps, there will also be the payment gateways in China where you could advertise on it. So WeChat is coming along with WeChat Pay. So a payment app already built into WeChat. You don't need to download another one. It's just another tab on WeChat that you could carry out all the payment action to every single merchant in China. At the same time, it's nemesis, the biggest opponent in China, is Alipay. But don't get me wrong. So both of them, you don't need to choose either one to do all of your payment. You could have both of them. So sometimes the Chinese users will borrow some petty funds, petty money from the apps, because it comes with the options that you could borrowing funds from them. So that will be able to help you to get through maybe the installment, or you are buying something that you would like to pay by installment that you will need to loan some money. And also sometimes it comes with different vouchers when you are maybe having dine out, or maybe having some of the other events, rendezvous with your friends. So that would be the dividers when the Chinese users, they are thinking about which app to use. But now make sure that the Chinese is a cashless society. So if you are advertising on the payment gateway, it will help you to reach out to a lot of audience in China. So for WeChat Pay, as I mentioned, is already there. So everyone using WeChat, they would be able to access to WeChat Pay. But again, in China, the Chinese users, they are much more easier to get through it. If you are a tourist, make sure that you have a mobile number register. And also, it's always better to have a bank account in China. But if you can't, make sure that you have a working Chinese mobile phone number. It should be able to get you through to the WeChat Pay. But when we are doing the targeting to those Chinese users, because you have to use the app long enough for us to learn your behavior, to learn your pattern. So usually we won't be targeting those tourists, but only those who are living in China long enough via WeChat Pay. What we will be able to learn it includes, so like the spending patterns, which month you will be spending much more. Would you be booking flight tickets to somewhere? Are you much more preferring to buy particular brands of fragrance, food, and which shopping mall that you go in much more frequently than the others? So these will be the things that we could make use when we are doing the targeting, particularly when you're advertising on WeChat. So you may not need to advertise on WeChat Pay, but you could use the WeChat Pay data when you advertising on WeChat or the Tencent platforms. So for Alipay, again, it's owned by the Ant Group, or we call it Alibaba, so it's the same group. So the data they're sharing with will be everything related to Alibaba. So that's why when we're advertising it, we will be knowing, much easier to know, not just the offline shopping behavior, but also the online shopping behavior. What those users, they've been purchased on Taobao, Tmall. But at the same time, we will be able to know whether that users, they have hailing a cab, they've been visiting KFC, or they've been visiting to a Michelin star restaurant. So every single behavior that will be well recorded and analyzed. But with regard to the privacy law in China. We won't be able to know the names of that users and also age or height or anything sensitive. We just know that ID address or that user's numbers. So what he or she was doing, and would it be related to our brands? Would they be our target audience? So the big data always help you to win something new. So it's important. So excuse me. So in China, there's no YouTube and Netflix. And how those users, how those Chinese netizens deal with their spare time or deal with their lunchtime. So it has iQIYI, Youku, and Mango TV, different names, different contents, but they are all the same. They are long video streaming platforms. You could use that to target different age group by age, so different users' background, demographics. So let's say for iQIYI, that's coming. So they're having 68% of users coming or living in the tier 1 and 2 cities in China. And definitely, it has much more monthly active users. So in China, it's not just selecting the right channel, but also you have to do the right allocation of budget. So do look at those basic facts. It will be able to help you not to fussing about the budget. So how should I divide it when I have in £10,000, 10,000 euros? So how do I divide those budget into the right channels? Look at the basic facts. It will help you through. So make sure that they are not really like YouTube. So not many users, they were uploading their own daily activities over there. It's usually being occupied by the media platforms themselves. You will be able to see those long drama series, comedy shows, variety shows over there. But that attracts a lot of users when they're having spare time. And particularly when you insert the ads into it. These are the things that are very similar to YouTube. When you're watching a video on YouTube over an hour, you will be seeing tons of ads. So similar situation happen on these platforms. So apart from long video streaming platform, definitely there will be something called news. So news are really related to our daily lives. So the biggest news aggregator in China is called Toutiao. It's being owned by ByteDance, the mother company of TikTok and Douyin. So if we are using Toutiao as one of our advertising channel, we would be able to share the similar data, the same set of data that we collected, we obtained it from Douyin, not TikTok anyway. TikTok would be something far away from that. So we could use the data collected from the others ByteDance app to target the users on Toutiao. And Toutiao itself, it has around 300 million of monthly active users. So it's already a huge number. Same theories applies. So we shouldn't be investing on one single channel in China, but we should look at the basic facts, hard facts, when we're allocating budget. So Toutiao would be a news aggregator. They don't produce news. So we have to allocate some budget on Sina News and Neti's News, where there will be news from different reporters, different sources, publishers, but at the same time, they will be having their own news releasing on daily basis. They will be targeting different age groups. So make sure that we have to find out what would be our target age group, where our target customers are before we make the decision on channel selection. So these are some samples of the ads you will see in China. Key difference is that you would be seeing the app launching ads over there. So just like the one in the middle, Xiaohongshu, that's something you won't be able to see elsewhere, at least not in Europe. So probably you found it in Thailand. So you could see all those big brands, when they would like to get 100% share of voice, they would apply to these advertising formats: Visa, banks, and hotels. So now comes to step 2, what documents needed when we start advertising in China. That would be a quick section, to be honest. So that wouldn't be a lot, because just quite contrast to your understanding. So just to make sure that you have the certificate of incorporation issued by your local government, if you are having multiple branches, offices, it would always be better if you have one that issue by, in English speaking countries. So it will make things easier. But do bear in mind that would not be working solely. You would need a translated copies at all times to make sure that the Chinese media platforms could read through it and understand it. But you don't need notarization. You don't need any professional to endorse your document. What if that document is not good enough, then additional document will come into place. So custom clearance would always be needed if you are importing some goods that are being found sensitive. So including the baby formula. So if you are selling baby formulas or selling fruits to China, they assume your brands already obtained the custom clearance issued by the Chinese custom. If you are in the educational sector, say like university or boarding school, secondary school, you're not a company, for example, so you're an organization like majority of university from Europe, then you would need the royal charter or the charter issued by your local government. Again, make sure that that will be translated into Chinese and having signature or stamp. It may not be coming from the local government. It would need to be coming from your organization internally, just to make sure that this document is genuine and being recognized. Some rare situations is your trademark will be challenged, or if you found some celebrity to be your spokesperson, then you will need to prove that you and the celebrities are in employment relationship. So these documents will need to be kept pretty well and make sure that you will be having the original copy and the translated copy at the same time for the Chinese media platform to review. And in most situations, they will give you the green light. So step 3 is about time. What time? Timeline. So how long do you need to reserve to get your campaign hit the ground and running? I would always recommend to clients do reserve 1 month time for all stakeholders, your colleague, the agency you appoint, or maybe you do not appoint anyone, the media platform to react. So the first thing first would definitely be figuring out the right channels again, so preparing the right documents and also writing the media plan, compile the media plans that all parties agree they're having some goals that are doable, what sort of ad formats you will be invested, the ratio of investment on different platforms, the length of the campaign. We should have that signed up well before the campaign is launched. And then you should reserve at least 2 weeks' time to make sure that the ad materials, certificate in incorporation that's been checked, so they're all in place, the translated copies are ready, so we could send them all over to the media platforms to setting up the advertising accounts in China. So different platforms will have different advertising accounts, so it could be a time-consuming period. But right now, the most optimized time frame, 2 weeks, if you have a professional to guide you through. And setting up the campaign would be the task that carry out at the same time. But if you're having a professional to assist with you on all tasks, that should be done within 2 weeks' time before the campaign is launched. But do reserve time for the media censorship. Again, it's quite tight, that they will need to ask the questions whether on the celebrities relationship you have a spokesperson and the products itself, would you be claiming something extra that could not be guaranteed or delivered? So censorship, do reserve 2 weeks' time as well. And once these steps are being well performed and demonstrated, your campaign should be able to launch within 2 weeks' time of incarnation, 2 weeks' time. But again, if you are having a much flexible timeline, do start it at least a month before the deadline you've been told. So just to visualize it, so from the start, we should have the media plan confirmed among all parties, and the client should be able to send over all the materials and documents at least 2 weeks before the campaign is going to be launching. And for the agencies or for the professional, your colleague, to set up the advertising accounts, to do all the necessary testing, tracking tools, and all this back and forth with the media platforms. And most critical part is to top up the accounts if you're doing bidding. If you don't have any funds over there, it would never be censored. Your content will never be censored. And then if you've done all the steps in time that you will be able to launch a campaign, as soon as 2 weeks after the incarnation, as I mentioned, and do follow up with your campaigns report so you could optimize it in time. Step 4. So that's always critical for you, not just to translate the content, the web pages, the ad materials, but localize it. And ICP license, something we will be talking about later on. So again, why do we need to translate the content? Because the censorship laws and regulation in China, that's been tight, and visibility, if you want to do a great SEO, so don't want to pay too much in the long run, than Chinese, simplified Chinese content, always better SEO. And loading time, so again, simplified Chinese, that being well rated by the Chinese engine. So that's why you will need your content, at least not localize it, but translate into simplified Chinese. Credibility as well. So the English website always looking like scammed to the Chinese users. For paid advertising part, the part that I'm focused on today, simplified Chinese content is always needed, not just the ad material, but also the web page, because both things will be checked by the media platforms. So it's always critical for you to translate it into simplified Chinese, except your brand names, except the celebrities being spokesperson. You could left their name still in English or the local languages, but except that, all the content should be translated into simplified Chinese. For the landing page, we understand that most of the advertisers may now raise out the concern that the Chinese users, they don't browse the internet, but in China, no matter which platform you choose, you want to advertise it, you will need a landing page, a website. So unless you have one running, operating WeChat public account, you could use any published article over there to be your landing page, because it must have been simplified Chinese. So on the ad material itself, we will be talking about advertising law later on, but right now, it's really important for you to translate it into simplified Chinese, because we can't assume all the Chinese users you're targeting, they would be able to read and understand simplified any language outside of simplified Chinese. And that means a greater communication. But at the same time, for the media platforms, they want to avoid any risk that your content written in other languages are not aligning or following the laws and regulations. So that's why it's critical for you to translate it into simplified Chinese. But most ideal situation is you localize it, you mimicking what the Chinese are actually talking, given that if you having zero knowledge about Chinese or the Chinese language itself. So do find a professional if you are not really confident on handling the localization. Once the localization is being done and master, you will get much more business opportunity in China. So for ICP license, that would be something for you to do about the website landing. So I mentioned, if you're having the WeChat public account, you don't need a web page anymore on most occasions. But if your brands do not have a WeChat, don't have a WeChat public account, so go to the website. You don't need to host your website in China, just to make sure your website is visible in China, able to be searched, and then that will be all. You could advertise just like the other brands. So the only situation you need the ICP license is you decided to host your website in China, then you will need the ICP license. If you have applied it, do provide the ICP license copy to your agency, to your colleague, to the media platforms. So the penultimate step is advertising law in China. So advertising law in China, we could get rid up to a few essential points. First Firstly, that would be nothing is absolute. So you can't claim your brand being the best, fastest, youngest, greatest, longest, best. You can't do that simply because it would be very sensitive, prone to lawsuit in China if you do make such claims. So the media platforms would not allow you using any absolute terms on your website, on the advertising materials, on the images, video. You can't mention it at all, and not even closes. How if I could prove that? How if I could prove that in China? That's nothing you could prove to be absolute best, except you are talking about the sun will rise every day on the east side. That's the only thing that you could say is absolute. But except that, nothing is absolute. Do not try to mention it because it would be banned and objected by the Chinese media platform. The second things would be nothing could be granted, particularly related to investment and educational results or any result from your product. Say you guarantee the investment return at 5 or 10% per year. And even though that you could promise, but that's just not going to be allowed by any Chinese media platform for their risk management purpose. So if you set that the projection estimate return, no, they will still be banned. So do not mention it until the users they've already aroused by your advertising content. So once they've been interested, they turn it into your product and services they would ask. Then you could review. So for education, for the other products, similar things. So you can't guarantee your products could deliver any sort of result, maybe for university or for education. You can't guarantee your course must ensure you to earn a degree or earn a place in certain university. You can't make such claim because every single time there will be exceptional case and the media platform will probably subject to a huge fine by the Chinese government. So they will not allow you to do that. And then the key thing is find a professional to check the words on your website, on your articles, on your video, on your image. So for everything that you would be putting into the advertisement. So always make sure that these sensitive words will not be appear. So, well, Benny, that's a long list. How should I avoid these things appear? Find a professional or download it from Google. Then you will be able to Google a long list of those sensitive words. So make sure that they are not going to appear. Don't try it because it must be objected and banned by the Chinese media platforms 10 out of 10 times. So some of the sensitive industry like finance, medical, education. So we can't guarantee, just like the advertising law, that these industries, the players in this industry will not be able to advertise in China, but it's always time to time, case by case basis. So certain platform will allow the financial goods or the medical institution, the medical companies to advertise. But again, you will need to obey with a lot of laws in China. So better find a professional to ask them whether or not you will now be allowed to advertise, or do I need to make any twists on the content? So say, for example, for Forex, should we do that in a way that just like any elsewhere, the campaign that we're carrying out elsewhere, or we have twisted into a Forex news platform? That would be a thought. That would be a way for your brand to advertise, but do find a professional to consult it. And for education, again, that will be subject to the diplomatical situations of mainland China with the other governments at the same time. So it's always about whether or not the degree is being recognized by mainland China. So do pay attention to the news before your institutions going to advertise in China or to the Chinese audience. So the last step is, can I track the performance with Google Analytics? So simply, briefly speaking, is you can do the tracking with Google Analytics on the organic performances and the paid performances, but do pay attention to the discrepancy it will be at least 20% less than the data you gather from the Chinese media platforms or from the third-party tracking tools you're using in China. Which one is genuine? Which one is true? That depends on you, because the Google Analytics being affected, not being blocked by the grey firewall in China. So it will never be able to deliver you the 100% real pictures. But using Google Analytics, it means that there's a globally recognized framework for the performances, for your reporting, for your explanations to the other stakeholders. So do make sure that you're using Google Analytics, but the discrepancy will always be there. The way to get through this is using the alternative tracking tools. So make sure that it's cross-tracking the data you pulled out from the media platforms, the data you pulled out from Google Analytics, and the data you pulled out from the Chinese tracking tools, say like Baidu Tongji, owned by Baidu, Yuman, 51.la. So cross-checking different sources, compare, contrast, juxtaposing, make sure that the the results you found, the performance indicators you found, that would be much more reasonable to justify the performances. But if you found it, all three tracking tools, all three datas you put out from three different sources, all assuming or suggesting a the performance that required a great improvement, that means you will need a great improvement. You need to optimize the campaign. So what if three sources telling you a different story? Then you will have to make a decision which one you would like to go with. But the Google Analytics, again, the data they are bringing back from China, always coming with discrepancy, at least 20%. So a quick summary is choose the right platforms. We have to know who are we going to target. So you could use it. You could use the targeting filters to decide it, but at the same time, you could choose the right platforms, always plurals, so not just one, to make sure your campaign is going to be a successful one. Prepare the documents beforehand. The incorporation certificate always needed, but sometimes you will need a few more sheets of paper. E-copies will do, so make sure that you could get through the censorship check. So always reserve at least a month, unless you've been asked to launch a campaign very quickly. So with a month's time, that would be sufficient time for us, for everyone to maneuver and make sure that the campaigns will be launching with no, we can't say no mistake, but much lesser mistakes and things that we could still be saving after the campaign just launched. The fourth one is simplified Chinese is required on all content for communication, for censorship, for credibility, for the future business development. Do translate all the content into simplified Chinese. If your budget allows, resources allow, do localize all the content. Fifth one, find a marketing professional in China or find a Chinese marketing professional elsewhere. So make sure that they will helping you to communicate with the different media platforms, conducting checks on the wordings, on the videos content, on the channel selections, on the tracking tools, on the creative direction. Checking all these things out before launching a campaign, it will be much better than you do the twist afterwards. So the last one is using multiple tracking tools. Always using Google Analytics, that would be doing you no wrong, but at the same time, do apply the different tracking tools to make sure that you will be able to see the complete pictures as much as you can. So that's long sharing, and I hope everyone could get something, could be shedding some light from my sharings. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're getting some great insights from my experience, and enjoy the rest of the WorldView conference. Thank you, and bye-bye.